Hey everyone, this is the Old Bull, and this is bullish news for week ending 30th of September. All right, let's start off with some fundraising. So Pantera Capital plans a $1.25 billion fund, and then Microsoft leads 20 million raise for space and time. So let's have a look at these. So Pantera Capital plans another mammoth crypto fund. So the Silicon Valley-based Pantera Capital is one of the largest crypto hedge funds with roughly $4.5 billion in assets under management. So its quote machine founder, Dan Moorhead, speaks out, people tend to take notice. And I think that's true. So that when these traditional people start coming into crypto in a big way, it makes a huge difference to the crypto market, because up till now we've been very much on the edge, and we need this mainstream adoption to actually make a difference. So down the bottom here, he says, we want to provide liquidity for people that are kind of giving up, because we're still very bullish for the next 10 or 20 years. Okay, I think that's really, really important. And we come down to Microsoft here. So Microsoft leads a $20 million round for space and time. So decentralized, blockchain stored, data analytics platform Space and Time has secured US $20 million in funding from several investors, including Microsoft Venture Capital, and the Californian company now has a valuation of US $300 million. So other investors were Framework Ventures, Hashkey, Foresight Ventures, 7X Ventures, Polygon, Blizzard, the Avalanche Fund. Blizzard, the Avalanche Fund. So I thought that might be Blizzard Gaming, but it's Blizzard, the Avalanche Fund. Stratus, Hash Capital, Coin, DCX, and various angel investors. So the Chainlink partner company previously raised $10 million in seed round. So this is really good news. When people like Microsoft are coming in and backing crypto, it's fairly obvious that things are moving in the right direction. So a lot of investments going on right now, I think, because we're in crypto winter and things are cheap. So it's easy to raise money. It's easy to get the right price on things when you're buying things. So it's all very exciting. So across to Binance CEO, regulatory clarity will help crypto adoption. All right, so this is really important. So Binance founder and CEO Changpeng Zhao believes clear regulations will help accelerate crypto adoption. All right, I think this is very true. I'm in two minds about it. I would really like to see the crypto world regulate itself, and we've got the ability to be really hands-on in this space. And we could really show governments how to do this better than what governments can do. And yet we're sort of sitting back waiting for governments to come and regulate us. And what are governments going to do? They're just going to try and apply the old rules and systems to this new technology. And I believe it's really the wrong way to go. I do agree that regulation will see mass adoption, but I actually don't think it's the right way to go about it. Personally, having thought about this a little bit, I actually think a really good adoption process would be if governments want to get involved and they truly want to protect the people, then put in some basic barriers for people. Like if you only earn $50,000 in a year, then you can only invest so much per year out of your income into crypto. But if you earn $500,000 a year, then you can invest more without risk, so of losing too much. But they don't want to do that. They actually want to control the industries and actually be able to tax it all, and that's what they're actually after. So that's my personal opinion. We'll see what happens. But I think there's much better ways to get this on the right track. And as crypto people, we should be developing systems that make it fairer, make it safer, and make it easier for people to adopt. And I think that's coming. But I think we'll actually see government regulation before we all get our act together. And yeah, it's moving in the right direction, I believe, but not as fast as I would like. Australian pilot for CBDC, so central bank digital currency test for the new electronic AUD. I'm a total non-fan of governments making digital currencies. I haven't read the white paper. I'm not even sure if it's out yet. I think I saw down here that the white paper might be out. So I'll try and find that and check this. But what I get really scared about is governments have got hundreds of years of printing money whenever they run out, and they devalue the currency. Crypto is supposed to be a set amount. Not always. I mean, you can have different systems, but anything that you're going to invest in over time has a set amount, has a top limit, a total distribution. And governments aren't going to like that because that just forces the price to go up. And it means that they can't print any more later on if they want to. So my fear of a digital currency is it's even easier for them to add more, and they can even add more without people really knowing. So I don't like it. I also don't like the fact that the government can track every single transaction that we make within a country down to the last cent. And, this is the old, you wouldn't worry about your privacy if you weren't doing anything wrong. That's partly true, and I definitely agree with that. But I also know in Australia, when you've got security cameras right through the city watching every single street corner, and you can track people wherever they go, that's fine while we've got a great democracy running in Australia. But the second we don't have a great democracy, those sort of control items can become very heinous very quickly. And I don't like that. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. We'll follow along. What it does show is that the government's trying to think about what it can do to get involved in crypto, and they can see what's happening. So I'm all for that. Go Australia. California Governor Newsom vetoes the crypto licensing and regulatory framework. So this is good news. I like this. This guy's basically come out and said, you know what, we need a more flexible approach that would actually help us do a better job in this. And he thought the framework was just too stiff and too early. So he actually says it was far too early to be making these decisions and setting into stone what the regulations are going to be. And I actually like that sort of thinking. I do believe that when you have a Wild West situation, immediate regulation just means you keep the old system. And I'd like to see a new system evolve. And the way you let a new system evolve is let it actually play out a little bit. So let's see it play out a little bit. Give us a chance as crypto people to build things and show what can happen, and then bring in regulation slowly and thoughtfully and with a considered approach. I think that's a much safer way to go. So props to you, Governor Newsom. I think that's really cool that you did that. So Bank of England continues to print money. So just when you thought it was safe to start relying on the British pound, they've come out and said, oh, you know what, we're going to print another 65 billion. It says 100 billion in this article, but another article I read today said 65 billion. But they wanted a subscription from me to actually read their article. And I said no. So I came back to this article. So the Bank of England's decision to increase the quantitative easing, they changed it to 65 billion just recently, the last couple of days. So yeah, so they're just going to keep printing money. And when you can just make money out of thin air and you don't have to be responsible for the consequences because you're going to be out of government by the time those consequences fall into place, all right? Because consequences don't often happen the day you do something. They often happen days, weeks, months, years later. And in government, often what I dislike about modern democracies is if you've got a government running on a 3 or 4 year cycle, then by the time they actually get the consequences, they've been voted out. And so they're not responsible anymore. So they get all the benefit of quantitative easing now and none of the penalty. They're actually going to pass that penalty on to whoever takes over power in the future. And hopefully it'll be them. But then they'll probably just print some more money to ease their burden again. So let's get to a crypto standard where the money is fixed. I'd love to be using Bitcoin as the world standard and some other coin as a daily spender. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. So Starbucks Odyssey announces launch of the NFT platform. So Starbucks has been one of the best companies in the world for loyalty programs over the years. And they started a long time ago, way back in the beginning. They had just normal loyalty programs where you'd come in and buy, 5 cups of coffee and you get your 6th one free or whatever it is. So now they're moving towards NFTs, and they've realized that they can do very nice collection programs. And so these programs can be proper NFT based, and then they can actually become collectible items. So people from all over the world will want to collect these particular promotions that they release out, and they'll all be limited editions and there'll be rarities built in. So it's great to see a major chain jumping in and saying, you know what, this crypto thing, this Web3, this NFT but marketplace idea, it has a lot of currency and we'll be able to do some really great things to reward our people with. I love that. Well done, Starbucks. Web3 startup raises $30 million to create the Metaverse, backed by the British Army, Epic Games, and Crypto Vibes. All right. So Hadian, a Web3 startup, raised $30 million in its Series A funding, and the UK distributed computing startup secured $30 million. So the funding round was also backed by several other prominent names, including Epic Games, and the CIA backed. I'm not quite sure what that means. Is CIA backing things now? InQtel. I don't know. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds very scary. But it's good to see Epic Games in there, or maybe not if Epic Games is linked to the CIA. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see what turns out there. But basically, these guys are going to they're actually building a backbone system for the metaverse. And I don't know if you understand the metaverse really well, but basically what's happening, most companies that are involved in gaming are building some sort of metaverse product, playable games. We're doing one. We've got that under construction at the moment. It's just one of our back burner projects at the moment. But basically, what's going to happen, we believe, is that all of the different metaverses, there's literally hundreds of them now, they're all going to, well, Mark Zuckerberg said what he believes will happen is that we're all going to form one metaverse. And just like the internet, there's lots of different web pages you can go to, but they'll all be on the same backbone. You'll be able to just travel from one to the other. So you can be in Playable Games Metaverse, and if you want to go across to Meta's Metaverse or to Sandbox or to Gala's Metaverse, you'll just be literally be able to hop into a portal and you'll just go straight there, and it'll feel like you didn't even move. You just went through a door straight into their Metaverse. So it'll be very cool, and these sort of companies are being put together now to build the backbone, the actual technology to bring them all together. So that's really exciting. Fidelity's Wise Origin buys $60 million worth of Bitcoin. So Fidelity Investments just bought $62 million worth of Bitcoin this week. So while it's cheap, that's when you buy it. And so they just decided to pick up $62.84 million. Basically, it provides investors with exposure to performance of Bitcoin through traditional limited partnership private placement structure. So 733 accredited investors with a minimum of $50,000 each raised the funds with Fidelity acting as a custodian. So it's great, again, to see these huge companies coming in and they're getting involved at the grassroots and actually building out the structure for the future. So this is the beginning of what's going to come this next bull run of the major players. As I said last week, we had several stock broking firms getting together and actually building out an investment fund. Here's another one coming in. And to finish off this week, we've got ex-fund manager Robert Breedlove predicts an 8-figure Bitcoin price by 2031. So Robert Breedlove, one of my favourite economists, if you want to call him that. He speaks about the economy. So does that make him an economist, or do you have to have an economics degree? I'm not quite sure. But he talks about how Austrian economics works and how Western economics works and what the difference is. And he explains why he believes the American dollar is going to be worth zero by 2035. So right now, that's not looking very true as it keeps going up each week at the moment. But I do actually trust this guy. I believe his reasoning is sound, and I believe he actually understands what's going on. Basically, he says we're going to see a $12.5 million Bitcoin price. Now, I'm just going to bring that back into some reality check because that sounds wonderful, but he's talking about including the massive inflation we have right now. So a caveat there is that would only be $1 million in today's money, $2020. Not today's, actually, 2 years ago money. So in the last 2 years, the American government has printed 80% of all US dollars that have ever been printed. So in 200 years of printing money, in the last 18 months or 2 years, they've printed 80% of all printed money. So in my mind, that's an 80% increase in the money, but maybe they've taken some out of circulation. But basically, it's a very large increase in the spend. They printed it out of nothing, and so therefore it just deflates the currency. And what Robert Breedlove talks about is once you start on this step of printing money, which the American government has finally started doing in the last 40 years, when you start doing that over and over again, then it just ends up getting worse and worse. And we've seen it time and time again. The Roman Empire did it. We had Germany do it before the First World War, or just after the First World War, where the Deutschmark needed like several million to buy a loaf of bread. So it's happened time and time again. We've seen it with Zimbabwe. We've seen it with Venezuela. So America started down the same track, just printing more money. And so taking away the inflation, he's saying that in literally 12 to 13 years, we're going to see a $1 million Bitcoin price in $2020. So if you've got a few Bitcoin, you're seeing pretty well. All right, so that's really exciting. So that's pretty much it for the wrap-up for this week. So that's what's happened in the news this week. I like to keep these nice and short. If you've got any comments or questions, throw them down below. If you're interested in gaming, come across and have a look at Playable Games. I want to thank you for your time. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.